In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we discuss the issues that are happening within our communities that is the underserved and marginalized communities and how to actually solve them. Tonight, I would like to speak with everyone. I'd like to discuss some pressing issues that are affecting the Black community in America, including economic impact, educational policies, health concerns, and the essential movement toward unification for sisters. That is, this is a state of things that are happening or that will be happening as we come into the year of 2025, and this is the results, of the actual presidential election that just took place on November 5th. I'm sure that these are some things that have been depressing for a lot of people because, I think a lot of us have this sense of being and understanding that when a person tells you who they are, what they are about, and what they will do, that they will do them, especially if they have the powers in their hands of being the leader of the free world. Now, there are several things I like to discuss with you guys, and I just hope that what happens after this is that we not only start planning for 2025, but we start to come together as one to take on this situation for what will be, because there will definitely be major impact in the Black community. And just to go a little bit further before I dive into the show, this platform and this show, America in Black and White, is about inspiring, building, and connecting the underserved, the marginalized, and the LGBTQ communities that definitely need to see, seek, and become that much better, which is what we plan to do with this platform in building and connecting all of these communities. The first thing I like to talk about is the economic impact in the on the Black community. What's going to happen now that we have um, a racist, we have someone that's a felon that is now taken over, that's going to be taking over as president of the United States, and apparently, for there are a couple of groups of people that really felt that that they wanted to support this, and so it's the condemnation of all of us based on a few. I want to talk about the economic impact that's about to happen in the Black community or the African American community, whichever sees best. There's no degradation there, just wanting to just put it out there as for what it is. And basically, In a historical context, the Black community has faced centuries of economic disenfranchisement, beginning with slavery and continuing through Jim Crow laws and discriminatory practices. With the up and coming president of 2025, what is about to happen is there are going to be several programs. There will be several things that will be cut off to help those that really need, help as to continuing their way of living. That economic impact, it comes to, your everyday paycheck. It comes to the earnings that you have as to how you're going to see fit and what you can do within your way of living, and you know what's going to happen when you fall short. Well, those programs such as, I'm very sure that of the food stamp programs, a lot of these food pantries, and a lot of just a lot of the 501c3s that saw fit to do some things around communities to actually help people to stay afloat will all be affected by this up and coming administration as of January 20th, 2025. And so we know that on the first day of when they get into office, we know that they're talking about um, deporting, um, more than 11 million migrants, immigrants, whichever you want to call them. But you have to think about this, as sad as it is, some of these same people wanted to see Donald Trump as president of the United States. And so by voting against their own interests, they're pretty much going to get what they want. So when we talk about mass deportation, we're talking about they're going to put you out the country. Now, as far as it goes with how this affects the Black economy, is now companies are going to once he's in office, companies will be doing massive layoffs. They will once again be keeping profits for themselves. They will be making do with small workforces to do large jobs. So that means that if you're in one of these really large companies, if you're not, laid off, then you're somebody that's probably going to have the responsibilities of at least 3 to 4 people, maybe more, for the work that you're going to have to do for that company. Now, this is to make up for the shortfall in the workforce, but the shortfall in the workforce for um, those people that were here and that are here illegally, and those that are, however, they're doing this. I mean, there's several thought processes that they're putting into place. But with those people being gone, what's going to happen now is the thing that 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 Donald Trump spoke of, those black jobs. Those black jobs are going to come back to basically going back to slave labor. That is going out into fields now, and you are actually going to be the people that will be picking all the fruit and vegetables that are necessary to sustain this country. This is one of the things that when you look at it and you have to wonder, why would people see you as that way? That is because there are many people that want to bulk. They want to fight against progress. They're refusing to let progress take place and pushing us back into 1955 where there are no rights. So, um, how we get by these next 4 years is going to be something else because it really is something that's real. It's something that's taking place, but it's something that we must get prepared for. And so, to prepare for this, I'll speak of this throughout this entire broadcast. We're going to have to start unifying because unification is going to be the best thing in the world. We can't go at this alone. There's not one person, there's not a group of people that will be able to take this situation on and actually handle this as it is because it's very, very large. This is a very big pull. This is where we as Black people, hey, it's time for us to do it now. We actually need to start coming together and we need to start doing the things we need to do to build each and every last one of our communities and to try to avoid these atrocities as best as possible. Our economic impact is not going to be what it was growing to be because all of that is strictly going to be halted by this administration. They're upset about, as they say, DEI. They've already had the Supreme Court cut affirmative action. And so with this DEI situation, what's really, really strange, but what's so true to them as the way it is seen by this administration is that they're thinking and they're talking about reparations for white people due to DEI. Now, if we're talking about reparations for this, and still we had the opportunity to discuss reparations for African Americans from the time of slavery up to now, and what's still happening based on these things that are transpiring within this system. That was always frowned upon. It was always looked at as something that was just totally strange, and it was very foreign because people just did not believe that this is what was needed. My thing now is how is it that how are we going to talk about reparations for white people due to DEI, which I'm very sure that with having control of all three parts of the government, they will be able to do that. But once again, um, when this occupier took over the White House in 2016, again, he blew up the debt more than trillions of dollars. I don't know, 3, 5, 10, 15 trillion dollars. Is what the debt was. So now he's got this opportunity again, and it's going to be just as worse. When we talk about current statistics, today the median wealth of Black households is significantly lower than that of white households. According to recent studies, if current trends continue, it could take over 200 years for Black families to achieve economic parity. Now, we know how long this has been going on. We know that these are just true facts. And now that this situation has arisen with this man coming into the White House, this means that it's only going to get worse. So, if that gets worse, then what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What can we do? Well, I will say this. I think that again, we need to think about working together and do as many things as we possibly can for all the different skill sets that each and every last one of us bring to the table. We have to start doing coalitions. We have to start doing that because in 2025, when this gets here, and of course, this is one of the things that's in that Project 2025 mandate that was put out. And it is to make life that much more difficult and to send us back into these unbelievable times of when things are just so out of sorts. So what we have to start thinking about is, how are we going to make our lives better? And I think the first thing we should be thinking about when it comes to making our lives better is to just start thinking about, what are we going to do from a monetized perspective, that is, for growing and being able to maintain and take care of families. Excuse me. The other thing is, you know, um, how are we going to be able to maneuver in order to continuously to move around, to not be just so stagnant, but ways of doing multiple things in order to continue this growth. The growth is what everything is all about. And if we don't have that, then we don't have anything. Because what is actually taking place right now is when all of this goes down, we could be looking at these people coming out and this man declares martial law. I mean, that's one of the things you have to think about. And of course, a lot of this depends upon a lot of states, depending upon your state. And if your governor is one of those people that follows this, whatever this is, this is where, um, you know, people that didn't vote for this are going to have to suffer some consequences. That's definitely not about where they're supposed to be. So that's the second part of this economic impact, which is the statistics as to the disenfranchisement of white voters compared to black voters, and also how that is going to just cause impacts in many of our communities to where they'll pretty much go all the way to nothing. Um, the third thing that deals with economic impact is job displacement and unemployment. The pandemic has disproportionately impacted Black workers with higher rates of job loss and limited access to remote work opportunities. This exacerbates existing economic inequalities. So basically, when we go back to the COVID days of 2020, and we know how COVID pretty much decimated the country, where there was no human contact, where most of the things went to a virtual situation. So what that means is that we know that for the tax breaks that are going to be created for the top 1%, it's going to allow these companies to have the opportunity to um, maintain profits, cut workforce, and again, from the time that this occupier was in the White House in 2016, we're going to go back to losing hundreds of thousands to millions of jobs because companies are not going to allow um, their employees to cut into what they say are their profits. Now, we can better situate ourselves as one if we could just get together and come up with a real serious plan as to what's really going to make an impact in our communities and how we actually get on top of them right now to fix them. Because there's definitely a need for this to happen, but we got to get better as well. And so I just say, let's just start thinking about all of these things from an economic perspective because, if you're affected economically, then that means you're crippled because there's not many things you're going to be able to do. Now, we can try to continue to forge our way of doing the things that we're doing now that even include that is um, you know doing things via social media, doing keeping an online presence and just doing the things that we say um, are things that are going to help us, which are just just some things that we need to start doing from community to community, where we need to start engaging, where we're actually doing SOSs to reach out to all of our fellow folk, and we just connect. The last thing I want to talk about as far as economic impact is small business challenges. Black owned businesses often have less access to capital and face higher rates of closure. Supporting these businesses is crucial for economic empowerment. Now, what that means is that we should be supporting our own businesses. We should be supporting those people that are there in our communities that not only start businesses but grow businesses. And that's where our dollars should be because we need to have these dollars circulating within our communities at least 20 times before it gets outside. Some people don't actually think that that's a good thing. And when we do that, there's always things to come up to try to block us from actually staying together and working together. But again, this is where we're going to have to be a whole lot stronger than that. We're going to have to prove that we can do these things. We will do these things and we will commit to these things because if there's anything that I know I have learned after November 5th of this year, this presidential election, is I have learned that when people that look like themselves will actually do the things they feel is necessary to keep themselves in a position to move forward and just not care about anybody else because they don't feel like they will be affected. So we've got to get better with building our small businesses and supporting our small businesses. If we don't, then we're looking for trouble. We're looking for problems. Let me move on and let me go to um, the second topic I want to talk to you guys about is the destruction of the Department of Education. Now, for the as far as the Department of Education, there's three things I want to talk about. The first thing is funding inequities. The dismantling of the Department of Education has led to significant funding cuts for public schools, which disproportionately affects schools in predominantly Black neighborhoods. Now, we can go all the way back to the time that we were merged together as one. And, when there were some that didn't think that was necessary, but now it's at that point of realizing that in all of these schools, colleges, and universities, that it is absolutely a fact that having the students mixed in this way has caused this major downfall for us at this point. The reason why I say that is because in those schools or in schools in general, normally, our students, people that look like you and I, do normally outperform the counterparts. Well, that is exactly what is being worked on at this point. Is that they're feeling that they have to cut the Department of Education. They feel like it felt like there's no need to fund schools in Black communities where you come up and you create these unbelievable but horrible charter schools, which cause major, major problems because they do not teach our students what need to be taught. Now, if we, on the other hand, if we had the opportunity to create our own charter schools with our own teachers, where the students can see, excuse me, can see more and more teachers that look like them, they actually would have a much better, they would feel much more comfortable and would probably learn and study that much more better because there's a comfort, because it matters not who you are, but if you are in a place where you don't see as many people that look like you are definitely going to be affected by that. Now, is this a thing that our parents need to be thinking about? Yes, it is, because what that means for the parents is the parents know, realize, and they're saying that if they're loving their kids the way they say they do, then they're going to do what's necessary to get that child the resources in the manner in which he or she deserves in order to be a much better adult coming forward in the future. The second part of the destruction of the Department of Education is access to quality education. Quality education is a gateway to economic opportunity. The reduction in resources has created a cycle of disadvantage that limits opportunities for Black students. And again, this writing was on the wall 5 years ago. 5 years ago. And so, what that means is that, when it comes to getting quality education, it's now getting to the point that, especially for college, is that the thing is to remove as many Black students as possible. They really don't care. And so I think for, the way public schools are standing now, you have a few teachers that are still fighting, but they're fighting and it seems like the uphill battle is just so much. So we've got to find out where they're having either drives or just just coming together meetings for people that look like Black people to just come in and do all the things that's necessary. Okay, the third part of education is policy implications. Policies that prioritize standardized testing over holistic education often fail to address the unique needs of Black students, contributing to higher dropout rates and lower college enrollment. Now, what we're talking about is these standardized tests that are given that are definitely racial biased, but you know, we had start to make a little leeway there. And so rather than just have that continue, what's now about to happen is that's just going to be cut off completely because according to the readings and the understanding as to what the new administration is going to be doing, is they're gonna just totally just cut public education and fund money into private schools and charter schools. Now, once again, this is putting our students in harm's way. These are some things that deserve to more than just be talked about, but we need to be acting on these things. We need to be making these things correct. If we do not, they only continue to get to they only get to be as worse as what they are, but also it's going to take away many resources from our students. That's basically going to lead to just dropout rates all over this country, and it's going to be horrible. The third thing I'd like to talk to you guys about is public health and the national abortion ban that's about to take place. Yeah, I do want to talk about this because this has got to be one of the most disparaging things in the world, and that is to know that there are a separate group of women that knew what this administration had in place and what they were going to do, but they went and they voted for him anyway. These are the people that I'm speaking to because what I don't get is how can you put everybody else's life at stake when you know that this was the wrong thing to do? So now, knowing that this was the wrong thing to do, and we as Black people already know that when it comes to the healthcare system, that there definitely are disparities against us in more ways than can be imagined. Just take, for instance, um, Black women and birth. Black women are more likely to lose babies, you know, due to complications and things that's going on within their bodies, within this healthcare system compared to white women. Nobody wants to talk about that in that way, but what they want to talk about is, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And they've got things that they've come out with. So even if they did, we're still going to be fighting through this. Some of the things within this, when we talk about healthcare disparities, the Black community faces significant healthcare disparities, including higher rates of chronic illness and limited access to quality healthcare facilities. Now, that is despite the Affordable Health Care Act being available and people having the opportunity for those that do have healthcare plans. There are still some facilities, that are causing just irreprehensible harm and damages to people where, they're like just not treating them fairly at all. They're not getting the required healthcare that's necessary. And the only thing doctors are doing is just shoving out drugs to you to fix a symptom instead of working on a problem. So let's say, for instance, let's talk about the Affordable Health Care Act. This was implemented, of course, as we know, under President Barack Obama. And so, even with the Affordable Health Care Act being in place, there's still some things and some times that happen or go through some issues and situations that take place with many people that are just never addressed. There are people still right now today, and at this time here in the 21st century, that you go to the hospital, and the hospital, despite you having insurance that they charge out the yin yang for, they'll charge the insurance company, but they won't provide the care. Now, this may sound crazy, but it's true. I mean, how can you be a healthcare professional knowing that, you want to charge somebody uh for um for things that's just needed, but you just refuse to give them the right care? You see, this is why there's so much distrust in the African American community when it comes to hospitals and doctors, is because we barely get the opportunity to see people that look like us. And if we're not seeing those people that look like us, do we really trust these diagnoses that these people are telling us? Because they can diagnose you. Let's say, for instance, like somebody's being diagnosed with diabetes, and you were all good the prior, let's say, first 25, 30 years of your life. You haven't had that issue. There are no signs. But then all of a sudden, your doctor, your healthcare provider tells you that you're now diabetic. Now, unless you are your own advocate, and stand up for that because that doesn't sound right, then they're going to stick you on all kind of insulin drugs just to make you insulin dependent. And you're not even diabetic. But these doctors are not being held accountable. So, you have to think about this, especially when you're in an underserved community and when you're going to a doctor, you know, it just behooves a lot of people because a lot of people just say, I'm not going to a hospital. And we have to understand that. It's probably not the best thing in the world, but it's the best thing for them, especially when you're thinking that you just can't trust the doctor. But here in America, that's the issue of the Black community. That's not the issue of the rest of America. Now, just think about that. Sit in that and think about that. Because, you know, some people just feel like, as long as I have insurance, then I'm just going to the doctor and I'm just good to go. Yeah, you go to the doctor. I understand that because we all need health checks. But sometimes it's really hard to sit there and say that I'm okay with what the doctor is saying or what the doctor is doing. And, you know, it's just okay. I'm all right with this. I just find that hard. The the second part of this healthcare and national abortion ban is the impact of the abortion ban. The national abortion ban threatens reproductive rights, disproportionately affecting Black women who already face systemic barriers in accessing healthcare. Let's go back to the issue that was discussed earlier, and that is, you know, um, the alarming rate of how Black women lose babies when they go under the care of their healthcare providers who are not treating them properly, who are not giving them all the things that they need. If you've got a wife or a girlfriend that is consistently having problems, and especially when we talk about fibroids or ovaries, instead of these doctors actually fixing these situations, they're doing things to make them worse. So my thing is, and I'm just trying to understand, why is it that there are no hospitals in most of these major metropolitan cities that are African American? Because there are an enormous amount of doctors and specialists pretty much in every state. My thing is, why is there no forming of your own hospital to take care of people that look like you? That's a serious thing. And I'm not trying to make some people feel uncomfortable, but it's true. It's true. If you're going to the doctor and you can't trust the doctor, that's a problem right there. And that's one that causes high stress and anxiety because going to that doctor triggers you. And it triggers you because you know, for a matter of fact, that what this doctor is doing is not the right thing. It's not beneficial for you. So why are you going? Because either way, you know, it could lead to, you know, a situation to where you wound up dying. But they're not going to be held responsible for that because I want you to think about something. You know, when they do these lawsuits against doctors and hospitals and things of this nature, you know, if you're white and let's say um, that this hospital, you went in, you had, um, you were supposed to be having surgery um, for some a growth that's on your arm. You go into the hospital. This is if you're white. You go into the hospital. They make the mistake and they cut your arm off. You sue for millions of dollars. You get those millions of dollars. Let's say you sued for $5 million, you got $5 million. If that same thing happened to a black person and they sued, they will be lucky to at least to get $1 million. The thing is that you'd rather have your arm. Don't get me wrong. You'd rather have your arm. But what this scenario is just speaking of is how the inequities are taking place here in this country and how bad they are. Because they know what that value is supposed to be because they actually have a little guide for this value. So they know what that is. And so when you sue for that value, you're not going to get that value if you're black. You will if you're white, though, because they have to take care of that. That's our system as we know it. The third thing here about health is we're going to talk about mental health considerations. The stress of navigating these healthcare disparities and restrictive laws can have severe mental health impacts on individuals in the community. Comprehensive healthcare must include mental health support. Well, you know, in certain places, they've closed all the mental health facilities. Primarily, the majority of those are here in the South. A lot of the southern states have closed mental health facilities. They're now maybe trying to reopen them, but at one point they were closed. The reason they were closed is because it was not important. It was not important. That being that when it comes to criminality, people can plead insanity. They can have all kind of mental issues. In those situations, they fall on the mercy of the court. And if you're white, you're saved. If you're black, no, sir, you ain't crazy. You knew what you was doing. So that means that you're going to suffer the consequences and face the repercussions for what you did for your action, you know. And so you can be, you know, as out of it mentally as possible. But, you know, also one of those things is that in our communities, you know, our people need to know that, hey, go and seek some counseling and therapy. Sometimes it's just good. You don't have to have issues all the time. But if you need to keep your mind clear and you stay focused, it's always a good thing to do. Always a good thing to do. And so I just want you all to just know that, you know, this is probably the newest and worst situation when it comes to the healthcare disparities in the Black community, because there's an enormous amount of mental health, and we have a lot of people that refuse to get it. But now there are people that do, and for those that do, they feel a whole lot better. I suggest to each and every individual that you do take the time and go and seek that therapy that you may be needing. Because if you need therapy and there are things that you can open up and talk about to get them off you and find a way to actually get them right, then you should be good to go. Sometimes it takes some longer than others. But if you think you need it, go and get it. The next thing that I would like to bring to you guys' attention is the race and systemic change. Now, when we talk about this election that just passed, that's given us the worst situation possible, we have white women and Latino men to thank for Donald Trump being in the White House. We want to thank those groups of people. Yes, it's your right to vote, and you vote for whoever you want to. But the consequences that you've given the folk that did not want that is just totally horrific. It's horrific. For white women, you knew that Donald Trump was going to have a national abortion ban based on Project 2025, but you voted for him anyway. For Latino men, you thought that voting for Donald Trump would give you a leg up because for some way or somehow, for some reason, you felt like you were white, but you're not. And so now the mass deportation is due to you. He says, thank you. Now I say this, yeah, these are your rights to vote for whoever you want to. But also what it taught me and many other folk that look like me is that you all did not like the idea that Kamala Harris as a black woman would be president of the United States of America, which means you hated her blackness. You don't like black people. Latinos don't like black people, but they are black. You have those that say they're white. Those that come to this country, what do? What they put on their applications? They put white on their applications, which means the census is not. It's not accurate at all. It's not accurate. They talk about growth in Latino communities. They're having it two ways. Two ways. And so black people go and fight for everything that we have that's coming forward with progress. We're the ones that get on the front line and fight. But I tell you, I think after this election, I think not. I think not. When it comes to the mass deportation, let Trump have at it. Nobody's fighting for that. Now you can get out there and you can fight for it yourself. Hopefully it'll work. The same with the Asians. You can get out there and you can fight. Hopefully it'll work. But I doubt it. This is what you voted for. You voted against your own interests. So now there's about to be mass deportation. And as for the white women, the national abortion ban, where, despite what people put out in the press, that fake press with the lies that they put out, that's the mainstream media. They put out the lies, about black women or young black girls are having all these pregnancies and so forth. But no, it's actually the white women that are having more abortions than anyone. They're the ones that's having the abortions, but now they're going to have to suffer the consequences where you already had some women in Texas that have died because of the abortion ban. So now it's time to see a whole lot more of that. But this is what they asked for. This is what they get. So, hey, have at it. But I just say, when it comes to the people that look like myself, I say to you, this is an SOS to you to get out there and let's get together and unify. Let's get together and unify because we're being attacked from all sides, from every other minority group, including white people. We're being attacked. And nobody's actually speaking on that, but the situation is real. So as real as it gets, when they try to make us distinct, try to make us extinct, I mean, they want to try to just totally just eradicate black folks off the face of the earth. And so we're either going to sit down and let this happen, or we're going to raise up and we're going to unify and we're going to create our own systems that we need to create in order to make ourselves that much more better, because we're already the leaders. We're already the leaders. And so when people come and, want to think, those that come here to this country, especially these immigrants that have the gall to try to put down African Americans and say the negative things about us, but benefit from what we actually go out and fight for when it comes to getting rights. I want somebody to just kind of like tell me, how does that work? You come from South America, you come from Asia, you come from Europe, and you come over to America and have the gall to try to down talk black people and say, we're not worth anything, but you think you're much better than us? No, sir. No, that does not work. That does not compute. That does not work. And Donald Trump is going to show you that, because this is our country, not yours. Not yours. You're the visitor. You're the one that's trying to get the citizenship. We're already here. We're already here. But we have some people that still biting into this foolishness of not thinking about how we need to be working together. Those that are playing gatekeeper and are trying to keep us down and out, you're not going to succeed, because there's too many of us to let that happen. We're not going to let that happen, because I can tell you this, as long as this platform is here and those that are about building and working with our communities to make them right and what they are supposed to be, we have a platform right here. There are several others. So I'm asking each and every last one of you to please do your necessary part, and let's do this. When I talk about racism as a systemic issue, racism is not just an individual issue. It's embedded in our systems, from education to healthcare to the economy. We must address these systemic inequities. How do we do that? We get together and we form our own political parties. We form our own party. We've got more than enough to do that. We form our own party. We nominate our candidate. The hell with dealing with the Democratic Party. The hell with dealing with the Republican Party. I can guarantee you that if we formed our own party and make it a three-party system for real, a real three-party system, I guarantee you our candidate will win every time. Our candidate will win each and every time. So those that want to be bought by those people that think all they have to do is just throw some money in front of you if you're black and you just take it and you don't care about what happens, will that happen with some of people, but not all. That happen with some, but not all. So we can actually do what we need to do by coming together, building our own coalitions, and making sure that we serve and build these communities around the country. That's what we should be doing. I'm calling out everyone to give everyone that opportunity, and let's start. Contact me. Contact me, please. And let's work on that and let's make that happen. The second thing when it comes to this race issue is the role of activism. Recent movements, such as Black Lives Matter, have reignited discussions around race and justice, fostering a new generation of activism focused on systemic change. I agree with that. I agree with that. Because if we don't make things happen and we don't actually get out here and learning the system and actually putting together our own agenda to make things happen for all of our people, then we're not going to do anything. We're not going to get anywhere. We have young, great leaders that have risen to this day. So we need to start putting stock in those people and letting them lead the way they need to lead. Have people to actually, to mentor all of that greatness and make sure that it stays great. Because we have to start with our community in order to build and make this coalition what it's supposed to be. We have to do that. The third thing is the unification for change. We're witnessing the beginnings of Black unification aimed at creating collective power. This includes grassroots organizing, community education, and coalition building across various sectors. Yes, it's already started. Let's put into it. Let's give it more life. All of us are needed to give it all the life that it needs. So when we need to go out and do our protesting, when we need to go out and create our own political party, we can do all of that, basically just by organizing from different grassroots organizations across the country and having one big call to have everybody on a call to make sure that everybody is for what the actions are supposed to be. Now, do we expect everybody to be perfect and everybody to do this without having a bad situation? No, when I say a bad situation, I'm talking about just wanting to bulk against what we're standing for. No, not everybody's going to go for that. That's just a fact. But those few apples do not spoil the bunch. Those few apples do not spoil the bunch. You can actually see from the gatekeepers that actually helped Donald Trump get into the White House. That is Byron Donald, that's Tim Scott, and all of them thinking that they were going to have a part of Trump's cabinet, and Trump don't even put them on the cabinet. These are people that are being used to come and cause dissension in our communities. We can't let those kind of people in our communities. And if they're there, hey, look, we don't have to do what some folks do, where you want to like do a bunch of violence and things of that nature. We don't have to do all of that. We just know who the people are, and knowing who those people are is what allows us to keep them away from the positivity that we are standing for, the positivity that we are creating, the positivity that we are building. Keep the negative folks away. We can do that. That's easy. But we have to do the things that we need to do. We have to do them. And I know that we can do them, because activism is something that's always been natural. It's always been the stance that has been taken in our communities from days back, especially during the civil rights era. So they rose and they said, hey, we're not doing this no more. It was all peaceful. It was all peaceful. But it's our presence that causes the problem. Because the presence of us is the presence of dominance, is the presence of power, is the presence